Today we're going to cover running in every other bottle style indexing. You would normally use this in a situation where your bottles are too small for your fill heads to go close enough together to fill every one in like a standard filling situation. In order to do this, I would start with moving 8 containers in this instance. As we have 4 fill heads, we're going to need 8 containers. And I would slide those into your fill zone. And how I like to normally start this off is by centering the slug of each containers on the jack of the machine. That'll keep you symmetrical from side to side. Once I get that filled in, I want to move my exit gate. This is a left to right line, so my exit gate's on my right hand side. I'll loosen that up and I'll slide it just up against and touching the last container. And then I'll go ahead and snug that up in place. And then we'll want to set our infeed or entry gate the same manner. So we'll slide that in, and this is where people kind of trip themselves up sometimes. Is a rule of thumb here is you will always have in every other container indexing scenario the same number of containers between your entry gate and your exit gate that you have number of fill heads. So this is a 4-head machine, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 containers in, and then I will place my entry gate in between my 4th and 5th container. I'll go ahead and snug that one down. And the same rule applies if you're running 8 fill heads, 12 fill heads. You'll always have the same number of containers between your gates as you have number of fill heads. So once we get that figured out, we'll have a placement of our exit gate and entry gate. Now we're going to be able to set our fill heads. So what you're going to do is you're going to start on the exit gate side of things. It makes it kind of easier. You're going to put this first fill head, filling the bottle that's touching your exit gate. You'll skip one. You go to the 3rd container. You're going to put your 2nd fill head. And since we have a 4 head here, we're only going to have 2 of the fill heads in between the infeed and exit. So if there's a situation where we had an 8-head filler, then we would have 4 in between here. If it was a 12-head, we would have 6 in between here. So it just follows that rule. So we'll take the next 2, and this is where it gets a little bit different, is we're going to, when we hit our entry pin, we're going to skip a container on that 2nd set, because if we were to fill this container when it moves in, we'd be underneath this first or number 4 fill head and we would double fill. So we're going to skip one, go to the 2nd container in the set, and then we'll just skip one again, and then we'll fill the next container. So in this scenario, when this slug fills, those will leave, this one will come in, and we'll fill the 2 empty bottles here previously, and then we'll fill the 2 empty bottles here. So inherently, with the way this is set up, the very first cycle that you run, you'll have 2 empty containers that you'll have to pull out, and then they'll be all filled after that. So after this, now you want to run your next containers up against on the infeed side of things, and you can set your infeed count sensor so it's reading on a bottle. You should get a flash every time a container passes it. In this situation, now you're ready to run your ASU. So I would open my entry gate back up, slide these containers back, close that entry gate, slide my containers back up against my entry gate, verify that my count sensor is still reading a container here, and it is. So then I would go to my ASU screen, clear ASU, and start ASU. And then we're going to save that ASU. And now we're ready to run a cycle at that point. So If I were to set this one up and I was ready to go, I would open that back up and reset myself, slide my container back up, make sure my fill heads and I are turned on, and then you could hit start cycle. As you can see, these two would fill in this situation and these two would fill. So now when they come in, these were already filled. These ones would be filled in this situation. And that set would be completely filled now.